Welcome back, anime fans, to Ghost in the Cloud, our anime podcast. It is I, John, and with me is my co-host, Bridget.
Hey!
This week, we're doing a newer anime, I believe.
It's
Darling in the FRANXX. I think that's how it's pronounced.
Yes. We're also picking out the winner of our first giveaway, which we announced in our previous episode, so please go to our Twitter page and find out who the winner was of the notebook for Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid. So this is episode 49. We're actually really close to our 1-year anniversary of our podcast, which is crazy to think about. Like, this year really flew. Yeah, the show, pretty new. It's still in its first season. So it says it's going to be 24 episodes. And it's only up to like 17 right now, I think, right?
Darling in the FRANXX.
It's such an awkward name to say.
Darling in the FRANXX is a 2018 Japanese science fiction animated television series co-produced by Trigger and Cloverworks that premiered on January 13th, 2018. The series was announced back in 2017, a manga adaptation by Kentaro Yabuki, I like that last name, began serialization on January 14th, 2018. The anime began international distribution simultaneously upon its release. As Bridget said, it's set for 24 episodes this first season. Currently, there are 18 available.
Yeah, 17, 18. And then also the one of the co-producers, Trigger, is actually the creator of Kill la Kill. So if you liked Kill la Kill, I think you would enjoy this one.
Here's a quick synopsis. In a post-apocalyptic future, humanity is under constant threat from giant creatures known as klaxosaurs. Pushed to the brink of annihilation, the mysterious organization known as APE has led the remnants of humanity to abandon Earth's surface for the relative safety of mobile fortress cities known as plantations. To defend the plantations, children called parasites are raised to pilot giant mecha known as FRANXX in boy-girl pairs. Hiro is a former pilot candidate prodigy who can no longer synchronize with his partner, and they both fail to complete the training program. While skipping his class graduation ceremony, Hiro encounters 02, an infamous FRANXX pilot with klaxosaur blood and red horns. After 02's partner dies during a klaxosaur attack, Hiro volunteers to become her new partner, who she calls Darling.
Darling. The whole point of all these kids that were raised, their whole point of existence is to protect humanity, which is actually our word of the week. So protect in Japanese is hogosuru, which is actually 2 words, so I'm interested in how it directly translates, but hogosuru. So we always like to start off with what brought us to this anime. It's still brand new. It had a really interesting mixed reviews, but it's still getting a lot of watches, so I wanted to see it for myself, for my own opinion. And usually I don't get into a lot of mech shows. I mean, I don't think we have talked about a mech show yet on this show, which I know has been like something that Blake's pointed out. He's really big on the mech shows, but this was one that I really enjoyed because it's not just about the mech fighting. It's got a lot of backstory on the characters too, and I feel like that really balanced it out for me. Going on Crunchyroll, so that's where I discovered it. What did you think of it, John?
Well, it's another ensemble piece. It seems very generic in some ways.
It does. Very cliche.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any problem with the characters themselves. I even like the world building they've done.
Yeah, what little they've shown of it.
It's sort of this future post-apocalyptic, very sci-fi heavy world that they live in. My biggest issue are the FRANXX. The design of them doesn't seem to fit inside the world.
Yeah, everything in the world is pretty serious. There's not a lot of points of just humor. It's all very serious survival. And then you have these very cartoony mechs thrown in.
And when you look at, like, the plantations that they live in, it's very, like, hard structures where the FRANXX seem almost human-like.
Yeah, they're very organic.
Because of they almost seem very organic. The way they look, the way, like, their face is, which almost takes on a human-like face.
Right, the two technologies, they don't look like they belong together.
It's bizarre, but not bad. It's just different, and I don't know. I feel like that kind of takes me out of the show, the design of the FRANXX.
Right. I mean, if you could think about the other mech shows that we've seen in the past, a lot of people say the show is just a Gurren Lagann Evangelion mashup, and that it doesn't really have its own originality. But if you look at the mechs in those shows, they look pretty cool. I guess Gurren Lagann is a little cartoonized, but it still looks, I think, more epic than these.
Yeah, I guess in comparison to like a Gundam-like show, and I guess they can't possibly go that route where the mech looks like a Gundam. I mean, mech shows are huge, right?
Yeah, it's been done again and again.
Thousands of them. So I guess in the show's defense, the mechs are very, very unique. Even the ones that aren't unique to the individual pilots, they are very unique looking. So I get it. It makes sense to a degree. The mechs have like 2 forms. They transform. They have like a beast mode and then like a human mode, which is interesting to think about.
And the beast mode is when only the female has control over the mech, which is very difficult to do and very dangerous, and only 02's been able to carefully pull it off. And it's like this saber cat running around, and then the final form is the person with the face on the front, which is supposed to be the actual girl in the mech. Her face is the one that's controlling. And if they cry in real life, you see these like little pixelated stars going down the face of the mech. So yeah, I guess it's cute. It's a nice, I guess, a balance for this very serious dark world. So you have these like cutesy mechs to balance it. So that's not too bad.
So the show follows like this group, Plantation 13 has these group of kids. They've been like specially chosen to be like the next big group of mech riders, FRANXX riders.
Right.
And
because they scored really high, but they're not just like a regular team though. They're considered an experimental team that Dr. FRANXX is overseeing himself. And we don't really know what that means. We kind of see, we get these breadcrumbs over the course of the show. Okay, they're not as heavily medicated as the other kids, so they have their own personalities. They're not forced to be just mindless soldiers.
Well,
I think of like Clone Wars.
They are mostly mindless soldiers.
Right? It's like Star Wars, like the Clone Wars. They take these clones, but they genetically modify them to be obedient, to just follow the rules, to not have their own thoughts and ask questions. And that's what these kids do. But this, except for the main characters, the special team, they take the high score kids and they kind of give them more flexibility just to see what happens. It's kind of scary to think about.
It is kind of terrifying. But the show follows Hiro, 02, and sort of Ichigo. This is like the secondary character. No, she's not a secondary character.
I'd say Ichigo
sort of like
and Goro are both pretty main characters.
Yeah, and there's these other kids in the group that have all been given their like equal fair share of like shows and stuff, which is nice. I get like the ensemble thing is like a big thing in Japan right now, especially with other animes. Mm-hmm. Like people like to have multiple characters to cheer for.
Right, it's not about one person.
And pick a specific character they really like instead of being forced to like the main character.
Right, because I mean, if there's only one character being followed and you don't like that character, you're SOL. So at least with a whole ensemble like this, if you don't like one character, you pick another one.
All right, so does the story stand on its own?
You know, the thing is, I'm not sure what the driving force of the show really is right now. We see a lot of the main characters where they have these emotional conflicts because their feelings were never explained to them. They're trying to figure themselves out as they're becoming. They are, in a way, becoming adults. They're, like, preteen right now. And they're, like, all got their hormones. But then, the actual world itself...
They're about 13. They're hitting puberty.
I think so, yeah. No, they did mention they were all hitting puberty at the same time, which is kind of funny. But then the world itself... Humanity's on the brink of extinction. There's these monsters that are wiping them out. Why? And how did this actually happen? And, I mean, I feel like that's what we should probably be focusing on more.
Yeah, there hasn't been a lot of development on how we got to this place.
Yeah, they're not really giving us anything, and there's been so many complaints that there's no growth in this world. There's no world building here at all. They focus
on the relationships of the characters.
Right.
They focus on like building those characters up.
Yeah.
So I think that the reason I think they're doing that is because ultimately they'll kill a character off. You'll really feel it.
Right, that's true. But we do see this world through the eyes of the children, and the children, you know, they're not in any position of authority, so they don't know what's going on themselves. But I feel like after 17, 18 episodes, they have to start giving us something. Slowly give us the information to get us more interested and to keep us around to see what happens next. I feel like after all these episodes, they haven't given us anything more than what we learned in the first couple episodes. So that's a little concerning, but I do like that we get quality time with the characters.
You know what, though? To this anime's credit, they don't paint it for you. They don't just leave it out for you.
Right.
Like, they don't just hand it to you. They give you a lot of breadcrumbs. They want you to put it together yourself or have theories. I like that idea. Like, I like not knowing everything. I like being able to have a mystery sort of involved. So you have the mystery of this organization, Ape, why humanity is pretty much extinct, where these Klaxosaurs came from. Granted, I want to see development in those stories, but I like the fact that it's not just given to you up front.
Right, no, that's a good thing. And this mysterious power that's overseeing everything, and they're called Ape, and they look like robotic apes. They look like monkeys, and that's kind of concerning because I know there was one scene in one of the most recent episodes where someone just mentions in passing, they called them human wannabes.
So,
what are they?
My theory is
Monkeys rule the world.
humans started experimenting with like gene manipulation, the adults and the ape organization are in fact much more similar to 02 than they are to the human kids in the FRANXX. The human kids are sort of just like test tube babies that they're monitoring, which you kind of get that already based on how the plantation works, the backstory that you've gotten with where the kids came from and all the medical and science things. Like, there are a lot, the way the adults are designed, you don't always see their faces completely. Right. And when you do, you get an episode where you meet an adult and they just look bizarre, as if something's like not quite normal as we would imagine it.
Well, remember the one adult that we really got to meet, the one woman with the white hair and the purple eyes, it was...
I'm going to go with Zorome.
Okay. So he got to meet an adult by sheer luck. This woman said that she got worried because she tried to heal him. He got some cuts and bruises, but the technology that she had in her home didn't recognize his DNA. So she had to toy around, and finally it worked on the pet setting, she said. And I was like, wow, they have completely different DNA makeup. The adults, as they call them, in the city below, they really aren't exactly the same species as the kids. Yeah. I feel like the kids are genuine human beings.
And they mentioned that, like, these adults can't pilot the FRANXX. These kids are designated by a number.
Yeah,
Hero's group have given themselves names.
Yeah, the nicknames.
But all the children are designated by a number, and that's why you have 02. She was part of what they refer to as the Nines. And all the Nines have some sort of Klaxosaur blood in them. But everyone after that seems pretty much human. You meet a few other squads that are together that look and I believe are entirely human. So that's why my theory is what it is. I think that humanity either experimented or was close to being wiped out, and they just gathered up.
Monkeys rule the world.
Or monkeys rule the world, one or the other.
I mean, or maybe they're not even organic at all. They look like machines. And when they analyze these kids with feelings, they talk about it so systematically that, so the apes, when they're analyzing the children as they're trying to figure out their feelings, they're talking about it so analytically and disconnected that it's almost like they don't understand what feelings really are. They're just studying the effects of them. And it just seems so cold that it makes me wonder if they're really living things at all. So is it technology that's overseeing, or some other species, as you said?
Some of the side characters are literally called Papa and Nana. So, like, it makes me think they don't really understand what parentage is.
Yeah, they just give them, like, assigned nicknames.
So, I don't know. I think the show has a lot of potential, but I don't know.
I think so. I actually really enjoyed watching it. It sounded like we're really bashing the show, but I really enjoyed watching the show. I actually, blew through it. And then when I finished it, I said, hey, John, watch this with me. And then I watched it again, and we did it in, 2 days. So yeah, I did enjoy the action in it and the connecting of the characters. I feel like even though it's not perfect, the way the show's balanced together, it flows well. There's no part where I'm bored. There's always something going on, either between the characters and their relationships, or something outside, seeing a new monster out there. And then these monsters themselves also don't look organic. They also look like some kind of technology.
Yeah, they look some kind. Yeah, exactly.
And at one of the last episodes that we watched, there's one part that kind of was another breadcrumb. It was a little disturbing. They have to destroy these orbs in the center of each of these Klaxosaurs, and they kill the big bad beast that actually got inside of their city. And when they destroy this giant orb, something rolled out of the center, and it looked like a person. It was like the outline of a person. And that they were like, why does that look like a human being that just rolled out of this orb? So maybe these monsters are actually mechs themselves, and there's a whole nother group of humans or something like humans and it's just some kind of war going on against the apes. I mean, the apes they don't seem to be using people for the sake of humanity. Maybe they're the bad guys, and maybe these kids are fighting on the wrong side. That would be really interesting. So I feel like even though we haven't gotten a lot right now, there's a great potential out there for what could happen, so I'm really excited to see what happens. So, the main characters, Hero and 02, what do you think about them?
I like 02. I'm not sure how I feel about Hero. Personally, I like the character Goro better than I think I like Hero.
I think that he's the most well-liked character in the show. Goro? I think that he's the best well-rounded character. He's a gentleman, and he shows that he can be a gentleman even in the worst scenarios, and he stays true to his character. I feel like he's the most believable and likable character. And then Ichigo, I find her also believable. She's torn between her feelings and her position of authority, where she has to do the right thing and set an example. So she's an interesting character. And then you have Hiro, who only talks about 02, and he can't do anything on his own. He's completely codependent on 02.
Well, I mean, 02 is somewhat codependent on him as well, considering she's killed countless other pilots that have tried to work with her.
She
not intentionally.
Can fight just fine without him. I mean, she can't reach her full potential without him, but...
in the beast mode, whatever they refer to
right.
it as, it almost, like, is taxing on her as it removes her humanity.
Right, but that's not all there is to her character. We get to see a lot more to 02 than just... I need to be with Hiro. I need Hiro. I can only fight with Hiro. Like, she's got more going on. We're really, the biggest question with 02 is how much of her behavior is genuine and how much of it is just a facade, as the Nines warned Ichigo about. They said, she is not what you think she is. She acts like a person because she wants to be a person, but it's not real. She's not human.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's fair. She's not human, or at least she's mostly not human. I think she is mimicking the other kids to a degree, but that's because she desperately wants to be human.
I think deep down she has feelings, but she was just never taught how to use them or what they mean.
Well,
so that's why she mimics, but I think she does genuinely have human feelings and emotions, that when she gets to spend more time with people on a quality level like this and build relationships with them, that she won't have to mimic. She is a person deep down.
Yeah, I mean, you get backstory on her, and, like, she has had a terrible childhood, tortured, experimented on, never really provided emotional support.
Right.
Until a random day when a young Hiro sort of stumbles upon her, wants to be her friend, wants to show her the world, understands that she's different, but she's also just like the rest of us, or she has the potential to be.
Yeah, or she said then, and that's when she realized that some of the world out there is beautiful, and some of it's just the opposite. But that's when Hiro gave her hope, and that's been her driving force for the entire show. But just seeing how she kind of toys with the other people's feelings and does pranks, and seeing how she's a mismatch for the rest of the team, but she's still a really fun addition. It's really interesting to watch. So I feel like I think she's a great character. And I when I saw her, I was like, oh, that would be someone fun to cosplay. I can see a lot of people cosplaying her because she's so different. She stands out. Like, you can't mistake someone else for 02, but Hiro is kind of vanilla. Like, what else do we know about Hiro other than he was the one that gave everyone nicknames, and he really needs to be with 02 to fight. Like, I feel like they should have gave him a little more.
Well, he's the character who essentially has the most humanity.
Because he was an experiment.
No, it's because he asked questions.
Well, no, he was an experiment. Remember, he used to go to the lab and they did special tests on him, and what they decided was they thought he had a lot of potential, sensitivity levels, as they said it, which is why he asked questions. They gave him less drugs than the other kids, so they gave him more freedom emotionally, mentally. They limited how much they drugged him up. Even the other kids on his team, like Ichigo and Girl, all of them, they got like some level of it, but like they even mentioned some of the lab members saying, he's asking a lot of questions. Dr. FRANXX, he probably should start administering some of this stuff, and he said no, I want to see what happens. I want to see what this kind of person can become.
Yeah, but because of that, I think his character has more potential than the other characters because he has the most humanity.
Yeah, I hope they give him a little more spotlight, because I feel like right now he's not doing much more than just whining about 02, and I feel like that doesn't make him the most likable character. I think Garo and Ichigo are more likable at this point.
I would like to see more of the other characters. You get an episode with just about each of them, but I would like to get more. Akuno, she's this sort of quiet girl who was originally paired with this other character, Mitsuru, and they didn't really work out. Mm-hmm. And they've changed partners since, and you don't really have a whole lot on her.
Although, there's something interesting about her. She is in love with Ichigo.
Yeah, I guess she is. It definitely appears that way.
Like, the downside of this experimental team allowing these children to have such emotional freedom to like develop more as people is that you're going to get these unexpected twists, that one of them is in love with another girl, but that affects the fact that you can't have two females run a mech, and they even tried it, and it didn't work. Because of that, she's not pairing well with the boys in the group, because this pairing has to be on like an emotional level. So I think that's why she had so much trouble in the beginning.
That's another, what I'm going to refer to as hint, as to why I think aliens or some kind of mutant is behind the organization of 8, because they pair them in girl-boy pairs. Because this is within the regular world, but in the future, right? It's a post-apocalyptic future. So in our current world, you have people, gay individuals, lesbian individuals, people who love each other, same sex,
there's
right?
all different kinds of people out there. And
you can have just as an emotional connection with a female as you can with a male. But it's not like the designers sort of knew that.
Yeah, it's just such a backwards way of thinking, and it's just such a simple and flawed way to set it up.
I have an issue. I think my biggest issue with this show is how they link up in the mech. It kind of bothers me. Like, it seems derogatory towards women. Like, women are bent over, like, in these, like, tight clothing, and the guys grab onto like these handles like around their ass. It's just I don't know.
That is definitely completely fan service. It wasn't necessary. They could be sitting in two chairs next to each other in the mech and have to hold hands or something, or wear two helmets and mentally link each other, or something less. It's like literally looks like a sex position. Like, it's really derogatory towards female, I think, and it makes it a very cliche, stereotypical male female. Like,
there's also no explanation to how the FRANXX work, other than the fact that they need two people, a male and female, to link up. The FRANXX take on a body form of the female, but the males are controlling it to a degree.
Right, and
but you don't know what exactly they're controlling. Yeah, it's weird. It's a strange sort of mix. I would like a little more understanding of the science.
Right, and the fact that the females get the brunt of the physical damage because their body's more connected with the mech, but then the men have more physical control over the female. I'm like, come on. So I'd like to know more about that, but it seems very, I guess, a little backwards to me, but it could be because of whoever is ruling this 8 group. It's because they have such a lack of understanding of humanity. But yeah, I think it's fan service. And it's not really necessary, but I guess they feel like they need to throw it in there.
The way each of these characters treat each other, whether it's good or bad, it does say a lot about... It does point out a lot of the issues in the real world, just especially with, like, 02. She's isolated. The girls and boys, minus Hiro, are hesitant of her. Like, people pick on her. People pick on the other characters as well. Zoram and Miku are constantly bickering at each other. You know, it's interesting to see how they develop those characters and just input that real world sort of, I don't want to say nastiness, but...
No, but it's human flaws.
Yeah.
It's part of people. Like, you have people with strong opinions, but they're different from one another. They're gonna butt heads. It happens. But it's all because they weren't drugged to just be compliant like the other groups of kids. And that scene when they were really young and they see the other groups of kids change all of a sudden, and they just sit there like with like dead stares, like not moving. It's just so disturbing to think that like drugs can make people like that.
Yeah, it's pretty creepy.
So yeah, I mean, I'd really like to see what happens.
Hopefully,
with the show.
by the end of the first season,
I'm sure they'll have a big reveal.
They'll have a big cliffhanger, because I think that's what's going to help this show, is if there's a giant cliffhanger at the end of the first season, because we haven't gotten a whole lot of story development. We got a lot of character development, but if you have something big in the story happen by the end of the 24th episode, I think you'll create a lot of
I think redemption. Because right now, most people are complaining about the lack of story development. I feel like if they really give us really good reveal and then a cliffhanger at the end of the season, I feel like it really draw people in.
Yeah, you'll create a lot of want for the next season. Like I said, other than the mechs, I don't really have a problem with the design of the show.
I mean, it's still decently rated. It still has a lot of watches, a lot of reactions to it. I think it was still in like the top 20 like rated for the season of anime releases, so it's not too bad. Like, I did enjoy it, and like you said, I think it has a lot of potential.
We've got a cosplay corner for you this week. We picked Hana, known as Spooky Fox on Twitter. She cosplays as 02.
She did an awesome job.
Looks like she made it herself.
She posted some pictures on how she did the headpiece and everything, and she did a great job. So Spooky Fox from Texas is our cosplay corner. I'll retweet her so that you can see her great costume. She even did some poses outside. It looks pretty legit. I kind of miss doing the cosplay corner. stars. I just wish I had the time and the dedication to make some of these costumes that I see. They're absolutely amazing. And every time we go to a con, I'm like, next year is going to be the year. I'm going to do it. I'm going to make an awesome costume like this. So just seeing this one, it makes me pumped for Anime Con this year, and I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna make a cosplay. It's gonna happen.
So you can check her out at Spooky Fox. That's 2 X's underscore. All right, guys. So as we mentioned earlier, you can take a look at this on Crunchyroll.
Yeah, it's only available in Japanese right now, but yeah, it's streaming on Crunchyroll. It's still ongoing, but if you have like the paid account, you can watch it. I think like the day after it's aired. I could really see the Kill la Kill vibe in it. Like now that I know Trigger did both of them.
Especially in the mech design.
I was like, wow, it does look like, it looks like the suit in Kill la Kill. I can see that.
Are you guys a fan of the show? You should definitely let us know.
You can hit us up at gitcanime@gmail.com, or you can go to our website, gitcanime.com, find all the links to our social media. We're on pretty much all of them, so you pick your favorite. And we also have our schedule up on there, and we have our support page. Tells us about what you can earn from being a member of our Patreon group. There's a whole lot on there, so I definitely recommend you check it out. Thank you to Anthony for our awesome intro tune. Thank you guys for listening each week. And don't forget, if you want to help us get out there, please rate and review, especially on iTunes. Retweet, share.
Yeah, and stay tuned to Twitter to see who wins the Miss Kobayashi's notebook.
Yeah!
All right, bye, guys.
Bye! See you next week. Yeah.